What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Out of Our League. It's a pretty fun one today. We have a pretty awesome special guest that a lot of you probably know. I'll be your host, co-host, producer, whatever the hell I am these days. I have no idea. Gage.
Seducer.
Yes. Far right, we have Philip J. Woodward.
Are you saying he's from the far right? Sorry, I said this would be professional. I've just got off the rail immediately.
Start over.
I just read you. God, Camille. Sometimes, man,
Can we keep
sometimes,
this in the bloopers?
all the time, every time.
We're just gonna,
We don't stop, buddy. We don't cut you. We just keep
rolling. We're just going, dude.
I mean, that was a great joke.
That was Camille.
Yeah.
Down below.
I just want to say real quick, Josh, I just want to say you're pretty good.
There it is.
Gives me the tinglies.
There it is. Bottom middle, we have Ben, and please be excited. I didn't forget you again, which is good.
Appreciate it.
And then bottom right hand corner, we have Robin GL.
What's up?
Glad of you.
Are you stealing my catchphrase?
Slightly different. It was slightly different.
A lot more,
You're still for me, man.
a lot more relaxed, definitely. And at the top middle, we have our special guest for the day of the Kind of Funny Up and Comer podcast, Josh Bittick.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be on. Very excited.
Very good to
Also
have you.
known as the reason Simply Sassy exists.
Oh, shucks.
Ironically enough, people are probably going to see this before the Photoshop challenge. I think I'll upload this one first because that just tends to be the
for sure.
pattern at which
That
we
way
do
it seems
this.
like you guys were actually nice and appreciative. And
Yeah,
then
it's going to be
through
us
the
being
bias
nice
instead
and
of
then
being the
us
other way
cheating on
around.
you. And then, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be very interesting for everybody out there. I don't really know where else to go from there because it's been a
Right, so I guess
shitty couple of hours
I guess
in the best way.
let's change it up a bit.
Go into it, Camille.
Josh, who is Josh Bittick?
Oh, the existential question that I've been struggling with for such a long time. It's why I've kind of been gone for a month. Like, who is Josh Bittick? No, so to answer Camille's question in more of a professional sense, instead of making an awkward joke and throwing myself under the bus, I guess in certain ways you could say that I'm a content creator. I make things here and there, do various different things. Podcasting is where I'm most natural, I feel, where I'm most comfortable. One of my top skills out of the ones in the creation. I like making people happy, and I have found that for me, content creation, podcasting, that's the best way I can do that. I can reach the people that way, make the most laughs. So I guess in a very, very, very top level answer to your question, that is Josh Bittick.
So you say that content creation is something you do to make people happy. At what point of your lifetime did this whole journey start for you to start making content? Because I see from like your CV that you've got on your website, you've done all manner of stuff. Like you're on so many different like videos, so many different podcasts. Like where did it begin? At what point was Josh like, this is something I want to be doing?
So if we want to get if we go super far back, it really began probably I was raised / grown up for a first few years in like a Lutheran church, and my parents were pretty heavily involved there for a while, and I did a lot of like their performances there, right? So there would be times like my dad would be teaching the kids, and then I would go up and do skits and things like that. Just like people would laugh. And for me, that was really, really cool. It's that moment when you're like a kid, like, hey, if I do X, Y, Z, I get a reaction out of people that seems to make them happy, seems to bring them joy. And I was a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did small things where like I would reenact movies when we were watching them. And then I started, doing the drama club and all sorts of things like that. And from there, that's when I was like, hey, I want to do something with this, right? And I found Rooster Teeth through Red versus Blue, I think, as most people did, in the early days of Rooster Teeth. And that was really funny, right? And there it kind of led to Achievement Hunter. And I'm like, man, this is like, I love video games and I love making people laugh. These guys are taking the two biggest inspirations to me and putting them together. Maybe that's something I want to do. And that kind of slowly devolved as that content grew from Let's Plays to more what content creation in like nerd culture kind of is, right? Taking all of your passions and just kind of putting it out there. So I think through all that, the long-winded explanation, I kind of came to podcasting, right? Finding your kind of funnies, finding your Greg Millers, and realizing, hey, seeing all of these people come together with like shared interests from all over the world can be so powerful, can make so many people happy or laugh or, have goofy connections where we're picking on each other and busting each other's balls, where we're all over the place, right? I found that to be so cool. And I don't think you can really do that in any other medium.
Mm. So would you say then in that case that podcasting is your favorite sort of way of doing that rather than video editing, or are they two separate things for you? Do they offer you two different things?
I definitely think they offer me different things. I personally love podcasting because I think I have the gift of gab. I love to talk, whether it's to hear my own voice or to try to make myself laugh. And from that aspect, obviously it's a lot easier than video editing, right? Like they each have their own challenge, but I could quickly go on, turn on a mic, talk for an hour and have a solid amount of content and put it out. Where video editing needs to be a lot more meticulous and you need to have a much greater eye for detail that sometimes I don't always have. I pride myself on being able to put together teams of people to complement my weaknesses. So, can I edit video? Yes. Have I done it before? For sure. But I also know that there are people whose passions lie higher with those details to where they can do a better job than me. And by recognizing that, I can kind of put it all together where it is more fun. So, I enjoy video editing, but it's not like I know it's not the thing I'm great at. And there are those moments when, like, like for Ben with an example, right? Ben doing all those Photoshops, like he finds the time to do everything like that, and he's phenomenal at it. Can I use Photoshop? Yes, but in my spare time, it's not the thing I want to do to get better. Kind of like video editing, I rather speak about something or play a game or things like that. I don't know if that answers your question or if this is just a moment of me word vomiting everywhere to hear the sound of my own voice.
No, it's interesting to hear that because like I said, you do a lot of things like your sketch shows. You're doing this new endeavor. I forget the name of the the people you do it with. Highlander, was it Highlander?
No.
The podcast thing.
Oh, the Borderland Entertainment stuff?
Sorry, Borderland, not Highlander.
No, you're totally good.
Yeah,
like Highlander. Like, is someone gonna cut off my head? What are you telling me?
Yeah, sorry. No,
There can be only one.
Yeah, and I think you saying that is kind of like how Simply Sassy sort of came to be in the fact that you've got Al Tribesman who's really good with editing, so we leave the editing stuff to him. You've got Ben, Please Be Excited, who's really good with photoshopping. You've got Phil, who's really good with voiceovers. No, that does answer the question. Thanks.
I think a lot of times people think they think they need to be a jack of all trades, and I think that's very, very helpful, right? A lot of the times, if people like us, we're doing these things alone because it's something we're really passionate about, we want to, so you have to do everything, and I think those skills are great. But when like you guys can put a team together and rely on each other, I don't think you get as burnt out as easily, and it's always nice to have ideas to bounce off of, right? Like if I go to Phil and be like, hey, Phil, like I've got this idea, I'm really struggling here. What do you think? Phil's going to come at it an entirely new perspective that I don't have to one, make my content better, or he can be like, hey, let me help you out. I'll record this voiceover that I think will really fit here. And it just, the whole project sings. So to have that group of people to rely on, I think can really benefit the content while being a jack of all trade helps. It's like, jack of all trades, master of none. You're not going to be able to do everything because you have to divert your time to so many different places.
Ben, so I think Ben was the one that had the idea about the last chance, the Simply Sassy video that we first made. Would you say that, Ben, you would agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, 100%. I think what Josh sort of mentioned about obviously just doing content on your own, it can be fun, but like Josh said, the burnout is real. If you're going to try and put out regular content on a weekly basis, as we all know, it's a lot. The first couple of weeks perfectly fine, but then trying to schedule yourself, tough. So it is nice to have other people to also help, like Josh said, bounce off ideas off each other and actually get inspiration from other mediums and other sources, and other people have great ideas, and it's just, I find it a lot more fun working in a group environment and collaborating. Like I said, there's definitely fun parts about doing stuff on your own, but like Josh said, to sort of be jack of all trades and try and do everything yourself, it's nice to have other people that can help too. So the whole idea of the last chance is really just to have some fun with friends and sort of see where it went, and
you guys
now it's led to this, which is cool.
Josh,
Thanks,
do you do this professionally then in your day to day? Because like I first discovered you, I like to say, from the Up and Comer podcast. And we had several of the Simply Sassy members, and like I speak to these guys every single day. But you have this ability of getting things out of people, which it blows my mind. Because like, yeah, Ben for a long time was doing his photoshops. I did not know he was colorblind. I did not know he was on a treadmill doing these. I didn't know Robin Jail was Swiss. No, I'm joking, Robin. Sorry. So yeah,
Fuck
like,
you, Kamel. Fuck you.
you're just so good at it. So I just want to know: is this something you're planning to do professionally, or is it something you already do professionally?
So it would be something I'd love to do professionally. Kind of the hustle that anyone else is doing, right? You do it on the side because it's something you love, and you hope one day it becomes something, or if anything, like, hey, I need an outlet, and this gives me that. So professionally, what I do right now is I am an artist for a embroidery and screen printing company. So I'll just kind of like take logos and make them ready to print on t-shirts, change certain files for embroidery, things like that. That's something I'm currently learning and getting better at. But it isn't like, it's not the end goal, right? No disrespect to that place. It's been wonderful. I love the people I work with, but this is where my passion lies. And if it's something where if I could wake up every morning, like I'm sure all of us feel, and be like, hey, I can't wait to do this, or like, this is something I love to do and I want to do anyways, and to make it something I can sustain myself off of would be a dream come true. It's just a matter of opportunity,
Yeah, and that's what motivates you, I guess, is because you love doing it. But at some point, you surely have to falter. Like, how do you stay motivated to keep doing what you do every day when you wake up?
It's interesting. So I have not put an episode out of the show probably since around Christmas. I think that was, like the week of Christmas was when. And I was going to take the 2 weeks off for Christmas, right? Because you got the holidays, things are going crazy. And is it okay if I get like really deep and personal on this?
Please.
Is it going to make anyone uncomfortable? Because I don't really want to make anyone uncomfortable.
Go for it.
All right. So I struggle with, I have PTSD from a lot of stuff from the past. So it's something I struggle with, something I've been working on with the past couple of years. Also something the content creation has been immensely helpful for. So instead of sitting in my house wallowing over what's not going right, I can kind of divert those energies into something I love doing that makes me feel good, but then also I get to meet fantastic people like you, which just kind of helps me feel a little bit better anyways, right? And so I was talking to my therapist and I was just like, hey, I'm just not feeling motivated right now, which is weird because one of the things I've used to motivate for myself is like, hey, if I'm not doing this for me, if I can say that I'm doing it for other people to help them or to give them a platform, it's a little bit more motivating, right? Like if we say, hey, I want to do this because of XYZ, it becomes harder. But if I know like Ben or Robin are relying on me to do something, it's easier for me to accomplish it. And I think I kind of came down to hit that burnout a little bit, right? So when I was waking up every day, I didn't have that feeling of, okay, I can't wait to schedule the next person or record today or edit. I was just feeling like, hey, I was feeling really lost. I didn't know what to do next. I was kind of feeling defeated, but also, I cut myself some slack because the world's a little crazy right now. And also in that time I had gotten like a promotion at work. So I was doing new things. I was planning on proposing to my girlfriend, and I was able to take a step back and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take January off. It was something my therapist says. He has a lot of coworkers who are just like, yo, I work for myself. I'm just going to take January off because January sucks. It's the darkest month of the year here in Michigan. It's cold. Everything is kind of just dark and gloomy. So I'm just going to sit with that and be okay with it. Right. So, and this is a very long-winded answer, and I swear I will be answering your question.
This is perfect. This is perfect.
I'm not motivated every day. It's been really tough. I am in a place in my life where like I'm kind of sustainable, which is something I haven't because of my job, which is great. I have that, like I have financial stability for really the first time in my life. My fiance is wonderful. Like I'm in a committed relationship that is
Congratulations,
fantastic.
by the way.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Not to humble brag.
Yeah, congrats.
She's wonderful, and it's something that like I never thought. Like if you told high school Josh, hey, one day you'll be engaged to be married, and that person will like be super awesome and supportive, you'd be like, high school Josh, you or future Josh, you are an idiot, and I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just taking some time to revel in that, right? Like there's always going to be the grind for content creation. It's always something I love to do. Like doing the podcast with you guys today, and even all the Photoshop stuff has been a blast, right? So it's always going to be there, but knowing that it can't be every day and knowing that there are going to be times when I'm not going to want to do it, and that's okay too. So that's the thing that, you do have to come to terms with, that I don't think people say enough. You think you have to just buckle down and grind and go until you succeed, and that's not how it's going to be. Like, there will be days where I it's great and I'll feel like I accomplished a lot, or I'll get a lot of views, or there will be a day where like no one listens or I don't make anything. And coming to terms with that being okay, and that's just kind of how the world works, is something I've been working on.
Yeah, it's okay not to be okay.
So
100%.
Yeah.
going into that, like talking a little bit more about the process, like how do you prepare for an episode of something like the Up and Comer podcast? Like how do you pick the person that you're going to interview? What do you do once you've picked that person? Like what's the process there? Talking about like keeping yourself motivated, like like if somebody else wanted to do this, or if they wanted to get out there and try something like this, give them some ideas of what the background of what you're doing is.
For sure. So for me, the big thing, the way the whole show started was just seeing all these people put out promotional videos to be the next up and comer for Kind of Funny, which, for those of you who don't know, the Up and Comer program, which is still kind of going on, not really, it's on the back burner because of COVID, was something in which Kind of Funny would bring 2 people on from the community who were voted, or like it was a voting process. They would look at them, see, they pick the person they would fit best for the opportunity, work with Kind of Funny for a whole week, all expense paid, the whole 9 yards, and they would get that experience. So when I saw a bunch of people who had, higher clout, kind of like your Corey Cudneys, your Mattis Batsons, who were able to do this and put their content out, it was awesome. And those guys are fantastic. They've been on the show. But I knew there was a lot of people, some of which like myself, who wanted the opportunity, but might not have had the platform or like you said, Phil, nowhere to start with it. Right.
Right.
So my goal was like to take anyone and everyone pretty much who wanted that opportunity and try to give them all an equal platform. Right. So Jordan Deeb was the first episode of the podcast, and he was so excited. And at the time, Jordan hadn't really done a whole lot of stuff, but now he's got the Waypoint podcast where he's crushing it. He had his viral tweet, which I'm sure a lot of you guys
That was
saw. If you
awesome.
haven't,
Yeah.
go check it out. It's pretty funny. So to see him be able to do that and not say like, oh, it's because of me, whatever, but to help give someone like that who didn't have a starting point or didn't know where to go, a kind of a jumping off point, that was really cool for me. Cause like I said, it was a way for me to know that, hey, if I'm doing this for someone else, I don't feel like, oh, I have to do this or whatever. It's like, I want to do this and I'm getting to do it. So I would pretty much pick anyone. I would, if they've had a lot of content, I'll go through, I'll listen to a couple hours of their stuff to really get a feel for who they are, how they like to do the stuff. And then just kind of come up with a list of questions. I've got some of the generic ones, the ones that are specific about the up and comer opportunity, yada, yada. But then also, like, if someone's got a podcast, I want to hear, like, how did you start that podcast, or what are future plans for it? Things like that. And, I've got my list of questions. Then you kind of just set up a time with the person, go down and go to town. Finding new guests can be, it could be difficult, but it can also be super easy. A lot of times if I make a tweet that says like, hey, I need some more guests for the show, I get a ton of people responding, which sometimes can be super overwhelming. And there have been times when I've like totally forgot to reach back out to someone because like I have 20 messages and I now have to schedule 20 different days. So it's every day is a little different. It's a process. Sometimes it's super easy to schedule people because like 4 people is a lot easier to schedule than 20, but having 20 people to schedule is something that's better than, not. Because if I take a week, like, hey, I'm going to record 7 days, that's 7 weeks I have backed up. So if I have something come up where I can't record, I've got that little bit of wiggle room.
I also think that it's a fantastic opportunity for people, like talking about what you were just talking about. The Waypoint podcast actually had Robert Highwind on recently for his very first podcast. And I think it's really cool that it's kind of like a moment of you gave an opportunity to someone who now is giving an opportunity to someone else.
Yeah.
And I love how that kind of platforms up, and having something be your first time doing something, there's a lot of nerves there. So I think it's great that you offer a platform where somebody might be able to, like, let's say they do, like Ben, for example, super famous on KFAF for photoshops and stuff like that, and get it permeating in Kind of Funny content. He had the ability
It's
to
tolerated, Phil.
Yeah.
Tolerated on the KFF podcast.
Oh, sorry. He may have, let's say he had never done a podcast before, and you were his first opportunity to be on a podcast. That allows him to kind of figure that out, and maybe he decides, wow, this is something that I enjoy doing. Maybe I should do this more in the future. I just think
that's exactly what happened. That was my first podcast.
Yeah,
Thanks
you're
again,
not wrong. I think
Dude, I
that's
was so
cool.
I was so nervous for that first one.
But you crushed it, man. Yeah,
I think
it was super
I
cool.
ran to my parents' house and my dog was humping my leg and I'm trying to record and
Well, it's funny hearing that you were nervous, Ben, because I was nervous, right? Because to me, like, and this is no joke, but for me, I was getting to interview, like, Ben, please be excited. Like, that was a big deal for me, and it happens with a lot of people. Like, when Alec Bobco's episode, right? Like, I was like, whoa, like, I've heard Alec's name for years. So, like, I get to talk to Alec, and it was Alec's first podcast. And it was the first podcast that he ever done. And Greg Miller listened to that episode. And now Alec has gone and done Waypoint. So for me, it's been really cool, and not in a way of like, oh, I helped these people, but it's as equally as cool for me to talk to these people as it is for them to be able to do a podcast.
That's awesome.
Just a quick one. It's Alex's birthday on the 31st, which I think this is when the episode will come out. So go wish him a happy birthday tomorrow or today, depending on when this comes out. Just quickly then, Josh. We talked about getting people on podcasts, elevating them, and getting them to a point where they feel comfortable going out there and doing more podcasts or doing their own sort of stuff. Is that how you would define success, number one? And number two, when you're getting Philip J. Woodward on the Up and Come podcast?
I don't know. After that, after the
this was all a ruse just to get Phil on your podcast. I just hope you know that.
No, I think, Camille, you nailed it. For me, success is if at the end of the recording, someone goes, hey, I had a lot of fun. Boom, that podcast was a success for me. If no one listened to it, but I was able to like create an environment where that person felt comfortable enough to talk to me, a complete stranger, for 45 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever, and they had a good time, that's all I want to do. I want to give that person some form of like, hey, I can do this, and that's awesome. And then no, Philip will, if he's nice enough and he doesn't want to like, run me over and then back up and then run me over again. Maybe I'll
wish your granddad well, then.
Oh, Robin, you've got to see the KFA Photoshop challenge because you're gonna understand why he's saying all this right now. Talking of Phil, I think it might be a good place to actually introduce our first community question.
Yeah, absolutely. let's move away from whatever's happening right now. I hate it. Can we go back to where he's talking about how awesome it is to do what he does and how amazing it is to get other people on his podcast and just take me away from it, please?
You will be on the podcast, don't you?
I would absolutely love that. And for some reason, I lost our community.
I retract my previous statement. This is not professional enough. I don't think I can have that.
Oh, no.
I've got two questions while waiting if you want.
Yeah, go for
please.
it.
So first up, I just want to hear, what's 2021 going to bring for you, Josh? What do you got planned, buddy?
I am going to try to hit 2021 relatively hard. You know what I mean? So I guess this will be an exclusive. I have not talked about. Well, I might have. I can't. I'm gonna tell you guys it's an exclusive, and I want you to know I mean that with all my heart. But if it turns out it's not because I have a bad memory, I apologize. I want to evolve the Up and Comer podcast to not be about the up and comer opportunity.
Ooh.
And I think it'll be seasonal in a sense like that, right? Like when the up and comer podcast or when the up and comer opportunity really comes back up again. It seemed like it was going to happen once a year. COVID's been weird, so that's what it is. But with there being no real talks of it for 2021, I'm going to take that out and just interview people who are doing cool stuff or people who want to start doing cool stuff. So there isn't that limiter of like, oh, I need to be a kind of funny best friend, or I need to, be actively working towards this. I want to just highlight more creators because I had a blast. Like February, I think, February will mark a year. Well, even like you were talking about, it's been almost a year since the podcast started. So to be able to kind of change it and bring in more people and kind of take down a bit more barriers, that would be really cool. I also have some like things working with Borderline Entertainment I want to do a little bit more stuff of. I'm not going to announce too much of that because I don't know what has or hasn't been talked about, so I don't want to take any thunder. But I'm going to do my best to kind of buckle down and make a little bit more content.
Ben, can I just like interrupt for a second there because I got it totally wrong earlier. It's mostly because I haven't heard of it before. I only know the Up and Comer podcast. What is Borderline Entertainment?
So Borderline Entertainment is a site, YouTube channel, Twitch channel made by the one and only Asa Green River, who is a wonderful human being. I actually met him through the Up and Comer podcast. He was on the show and we got to talking. I really liked what he was doing. You may have seen Asa on Games Daily, where he was talking about how he was promoting Indigenous Peoples Month, which is
Native
fantastic.
Americans Unite.
Indeed, indeed.
yeah.
It was really cool to see him on there, especially being able to give people like, you know, kind of doing what I like doing, giving people a platform and a voice who don't really have one. So at Borderline Entertainment, they do a whole lot: game reviews, game news. I know Asa streams on Twitch pretty much every day. Does a lot of different things, and it's just right now it's a site where people can kind of come flex their writing skills a bit. It's a place where people can practice, learn, grow, and move on to other things. And yeah, they do they have a podcast that is the video game variety show that will be coming back. Sometime. I was gonna say when, but I don't know if that was publicly announced, so I'm not gonna say it.
It just sounds like
Yeah, it's a
suddenly
lot of fun.
sassy. It really does. Sorry, Ben. You had a second question.
I've got 3 questions now. So
Oh, okay, go
Do you,
for it.
do you want me to get the
Please.
community question in there real quick?
Yeah, sure, buddy. Yeah, go for it.
All right, because I don't want to leave McKenna hanging here. I really wanted to get this question out because I think it's pretty great. What has been the favorite thing you've worked on in terms of projects and podcasts? I know it's hard to choose something like that, but that's her question.
Okay.
And then she also asks, do you have any advice for someone going to a school for broadcasting?
Okay. I can answer-
Parentheses, she's the someone.
She's the
end
student.
parentheses.
Of course. So the first question is, see, part of me wants to say the Up and Comer podcast, right? Because it was something I did entirely on my own. I was very happy with it. I think it's been, in my eyes, as much of a success as I want it to be. And I've gotten to meet all you fantastic folks. Another thing, I'll give 2. So I won't necessarily say which one is my favorite, but I'll say why I appreciate both of these and why they're big accomplishments to me. I did a show, I called it Downtime while I was at college. And it was a show I created. It was, you know, taking inspiration from other places, right? But I created it. I was the executive producer, the host, the editor, the whole 9 yards, right? And I was able to put together a team of people who all loved games, loved anime, and that was the I should take a couple steps back and stop choking over my own tongue. Slow down my speech. I apologize. The idea of the show was that it was all about video games and anime. Those are my 2 biggest, well, I guess my 3 things: film production, video games, anime. And I put them all together because I knew the school's biggest and best show was the sports show. And I felt like weebs and video game people kind of were always pushed in the back burner. There was no real like place for us to go. So I was like, hey, I'll throw that on TV because I have the ability to do that. So for me, it was really cool because I was able to put together a team of people who didn't necessarily all share the same interests, but they had a couple things in common and come together to make this really cool show. And I was really proud of it. It was one of those things where I wanted to get computer science students involved because I know the broadcasting department, we needed more involvement. So my goal was like, hey, if I can get computer science students involved, maybe we can get more people across, you know, like collaborations, right? Like we all do. And it would help both departments. So I got one of the kids, I think he was a freshman, and at the end of the first season, he just said like, hey, I didn't really have a whole lot of friends and college has been really hard, but because of the show, like I now have friends, I have more confidence. So to me, that was like, cool, the show succeeded. Like, I don't care if anyone watched an episode, because you had that experience, the show has been a success. So I think that's one of my favorite projects I've worked on because it meant so much to different people. And because even after I graduated, it still lasted like 2 seasons. So to be able to create something that people can come in and express themselves with, that was really, really cool. The second part of your question, I would say for me, what I really gathered out of my broadcast experience was not from the classes, but it was from all the extracurricular stuff. Do as much, and I know it's really hard with COVID right now because I know production stuff is a little weird. Do as much stuff as you can, right? I made sure I worked on multiple different shows. I would do some radio stuff. Like I did everything I could to, one, find what I liked the most, and 2, when you can leave and say that you have this big repertoire of work, it's going to help you either go in more the direction you want to go or be able to show people like, hey, what I did is serious and I was invested. I knew a lot of people who, like, we got like our final class, right? You had to, it was basically make your demo reel. Here's what the real world's going to be like. It was all bullshit. None of it was accurate. But like when I got to having to make my demo reel, I had a massive amount of content that I could pull from. But then there were a couple of kids who I had never seen before in the program they didn't know how to make a demo reel because they didn't have any stuff. So at the end of the day, like the classes are going to be helpful, right? There are going to be some classes that are really important, like make sure you study your broadcasting law class. That's going to be super important when you leave. But just make stuff and take advantage of all the equipment that's there. Know that when you leave, you're not going to be able to use that equipment, and that's okay, because I had to come to terms with that. That was a big reason after I graduated why I didn't make anything, because when you're used to using a Sony camera and like all of these audio equipment, you're like, oh, well, I know how to do this, but I just have a laptop and like at the time a Snowball microphone, which a Snowball microphone's great. You should get it if you don't have any other microphone. So yeah, make a bunch of stuff, do everything you can, and then know when you leave, it's okay that you're going to have to pretty much start over.
What I'm hearing is that it sounds like McKenna is on the right track, because she just recently announced that she is working with Caesar Towers on Patch Notes, which is a YouTube show
Awesome.
that Caesar has been doing for a while, and she just got on as like a co-host, and she's going to be doing some video editing work and some other broadcasting stuff with him. So that sounds like she's making some good moves.
I agree. I think McKenna, I think if you keep doing that stuff, you're going to be well on your way to having a successful career.
Let's switch it
Also,
back to
February
Ben.
4th, February 12th is her birthday, I believe. So go wish her a happy birthday.
There we go.
A lot of
February 12th.
birthdays.
Do you know what we're gonna need to do now? Everyone we mentioned, just like put up their birthdays. Like shit.
So and so's birthday's in 4 months from now, so we're going to actually have a reminder tweet to go send them a happy birthday.
That'd be great.
That's a really good thing to do. Go on, Ben.
My other question is one that I always ask when I'm on the show. You right there, Phil?
Yes, sir.
You good, buddy?
It's just the way Kumail said that. It just got me.
Get in there, Ben. Hammer him with questions.
You know what it is. You know what it is. So I ask everyone this question whenever they're on the show, whenever I'm on the show. And that question is, what is Greg Miller? Obviously, we know Greg Miller is everywhere at all times. We've had all sorts of different reactions from people from Kind of Funny, outside of Kind of Funny, as to what Greg could be and how he can be in multiple places at once. We've had
Fair.
we had clones, cyborgs, we had just different species, I think is what
Demon.
Joey had said. Demon, yeah, that was Nick.
Mike Bithell said something that was definitely going on with him, because when he was editing the footage for Solitaire Conspiracy, even when he had the image paused, Greg's image was still moving. So there's something going on there.
It's strange.
If
So I
I
don't
had
know
to
what
say,
you think.
I think Greg Miller is much like the Force, right? Like, you know how Qui-Gon Jinn, and if Clone Wars fans, this isn't really a spoiler, but you should also totally watch the Clone Wars. Qui-Gon Jinn learned how to become one with the Force, so he could just be everywhere and like help Obi-Wan whenever he needed and whatnot. Like, I really feel like Greg Miller has that same kind of energy about him, where he just exists, universally known, right? He just exudes so much, and maybe that his energy is so high that he consumed so many Busans, he transcended the plane of existence that we currently are on, and it's just everywhere, right? Like when I turn on the mic, that Greg Miller energy, I feed off of it, right? I've got my Greggy Chlorians inside me. The count is very high. That's why I am drawn to podcasting so much, right? So I really feel like it's that kind of energy where he's in all of us, for better or worse, sometimes inappropriately, sometimes not inappropriately, all the time consensually. And it's just this consuming force.
I love it.
So like,
That's great. That's one of my favorites.
Nutterbutt is the dark side and Oreo's the light side. Is that where we're going with that?
You know, I think sometimes it verges on Palpatinian levels, right? Like he's always going to be around, whether like something may happen where he like you said, clones, he comes back.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all bad. I do think he rides that line, right? I think sometimes that chaotic energy rides a little too high, but then there's also those moments of pure levity.
What color is
love
his
it.
lightsaber?
I asked that because you're
Clear.
colorblind.
It's actually clear. Like you just know it's on, but it's just like you can't see it.
I can't believe the Photoshop challenge energies come in now. God damn it. I'm sorry, Josh. I didn't mean to do it.
No.
Sorry, Ben. Did you have a follow up from that, or should I switch it to Robin?
Last question, pretty quick. It's just, hey, when are we getting on Please Be Excited Plays? Josh, when you want to come on the show, buddy?
Anytime. You tell me when, we'll coordinate. It will probably have to be like, I don't know.
It could be months away, because
No, I mean, like honestly, Ben, you tell me a date and a time, and if it works for me, I will be there in a heartbeat. I promise.
buddy, we'll make it work. I'll have my people talk to your people, and we'll come up with something.
Of course.
Phil, can you please talk to Josh's people, please?
Yeah, 100%. I got the
Tell
deal
Josh's
right now.
people, Josh. We can set up aside some time to to talk.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Oh, good. Well, they're
Switch
my
over to
questions.
Robin in that case. Oh, sorry.
There's
was
some
just saying
blank
that-
air here. I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to talk for a
Uh,
second.
I think it was
Go,
yeah.
Kamal.
Okay, no, I was
Yeah.
going to say
You
we'll
were
switch
saying
over
go,
to
you go.
Robin. He's got a few
All right.
questions.
So, Josh,
Yes,
you
Robin,
mentioned you like video games.
I do.
How did you get into games?
So my dad actually used to review games when I was a kid. It was really really cool. People used to call my dad Tony Free Bittick, where he would just like yeah Tony. He's such a good writer where he could just kind of write himself out or into situations, and I mean that with the utmost respect, I think. But no, when I was a kid, he was a newspaper reporter, and he really liked games. So he went to one of the local shops and was like, "Hey, I have a column in whatever paper at the time. If you work with me, if you get some of these games, we'll get you some free press. I'll write the game reviews, yada yada yada." So like games have just always been around as long as I have in the house, right? There's a funny picture where my dad and I are both looking at the camera, making some goofy face, and I was probably 2 years old, and we're playing some game. Like my earliest memories are like he would play Legend of Dragoon, which is a fantastic game, and I can't wait to see it remade one day. And I was too young to play, and I definitely couldn't read. But what he would do for me is let me decide one of the characters. So if you haven't played Legend of Dragoon, it's a Square Soft game, which became Square Enix if you're super young, and it's very much like Final Fantasy, right? So turn-based RPG. So he would let me play one of the characters. So basically, I was just attacking and choosing. And from there, I was just hooked, right? I just loved games. I was playing anything I could. Games were always in the house. There was one time I was supposed to spend the night at my best friend's house, and my dad said no, and I was super upset. And I came home and I was like crying. I'm like, why can't blah blah blah? And it was because like he had gotten sent to PlayStation 2 to review, and it had Jack and Daxter, and I was like, oh, everything is fine in the world because I have Jack and Daxter to play. So games have just kind of always been a part of me, Robin.
Awesome. So, what's your favorite video game franchise?
So if you, I think I'm gonna have to say Kingdom Hearts.
There we go.
And
That's a story topic here in Sipping
Not the
Sauce.
third one, though, right, Josh? Not the third one. You had me at Legend of Dragoon, Josh. I was so excited. I thought we were going to be besties.
I appreciate. Okay, so I love Kingdom Hearts 3. It's not good.
What?
I love Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh no.
No, hold on, Camille. Like, just hear me out. Technically speaking, the gameplay, it's the best to play. It's so fluid. It's beautiful. It feels fantastic. It's like everything I wanted a Kingdom Hearts game to be. Like, technically, it's there. The last 3 hours of Kingdom Hearts 3 are everything I wanted that game to be, spread over the 60-hour experience. And then story-wise, I just, even from reading interviews with Tetsuya Nomura, because that's how I was like, what happened with this game? It just seems like Disney is not great to work with when they're letting you use their IPs. So like that's why I'm the guy, like Tim Geddes is the guy who plays Kingdom Hearts for Disney. I play Kingdom Hearts for the anime bullshit, right? So I'm really hoping the next Kingdom Hearts game is going to have more of the anime bullshit and less of the Disney stuff. So like Nomura can do it, because Nomura crushed Final Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy VII Remake had no right to be as good as it was, and it was everything I wanted it to be. Now, if he can do that with Kingdom Hearts again, that'd be beautiful.
Do you think he was a bit burnt after Final Fantasy 15? Just like,
I mean, I think
being
let's
kicked
be
off that
honest, like
project.
the whole
and, you know,
ending part of like and this is going to get the Kingdom Hearts talk, so I apologize, but the whole ending part of the DLC for Remind was just like a big fuck you to Square Enix, where he
Yeah.
was like, hey, you should have let me make the game I wanted to make, so I'm going to make the game I want to make inside another game that I don't really want to make.
Yeah, I
So
can't believe we're talking about Kingdom Hearts and how Kingdom Hearts 3 is good. Like, I agree. Like the last 3-4 hours are like what
Perfect.
stand out to me and redeemed a lot of like. I felt like I wasted my time with that game. Quite honestly,
agree.
like for like 6 worlds, I was like, why am I doing this? And like the last 4 hours when you're going through that, the spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3 for 10 seconds, but you're going through like the maze and seeing all those fights happen
Oh
concurrently.
my god,
and,
it's
like, running
incredible. It's incredible.
amazing. But we waited so long for this, and every other game, I'd argue like most of the games in the franchise were great games.
Mhm.
but what the hell happened here? You know,
It was just such a letdown. And it was one of those things where I thought, okay, well, maybe it was just because it was hyped up for so long and the story had been building up to these moments. And it was pretty much just building up to the end. It didn't feel like they had a plan for the meat of the game. They just wanted to make the end.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't blame it on hype because Final Fantasy VII, like I said, was like fantastic. So it was a big disappointment. I hope, like, I'm still going to play every other Kingdom. Like, I own every Kingdom Hearts game. I'm the problem, and I understand that, like, I am the problem. Like, every console I owned was because I wanted to play a Kingdom Hearts game on it. That's not okay. Like, I get it, but that's where I am. That's who I am, and that's like I have a subblade right here that I built. So like, I'm the problem.
That's awesome.
Are we gonna get
Say
like
it
a
again?
podcast series where you just explain what Kingdom Hearts is?
So
Awesome.
Amazing.
And if you ever
I
had
can
an
definitely do
intruder
a series
coming
where I
in,
talk Kingdom Hearts.
Just beat the shit out of them with that.
So, real quick,
Exactly.
I have to make one correction just before the commenters tear us apart.
Uh-oh,
The Legend of Dragoon was made by Sony's Japan studio and
okay.
produced by none other than Shuhei Yoshida.
Right, I knew Shuhei was
yeah,
involved.
shout
Shuhei
out,
loves Legend of Dragoon.
Such a good game.
I just needed to get that out there before people like started to kill us.
Not enough people watch the show to do that, Phil.
That's true.
You know that's why they would come out here, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. This would be the most viewed video because everyone was hating on me because I thought Square was involved.
I
just love it. Legend of Dragoon was one of the first JRPGs that I remember where you could actually, it was slightly active in the battle system. So we had to press things at certain times to try and get the max power, and you could transform to those cool Dragoon creatures. It was so cool. So
I had little rocks in my under my deck. There was like these little red rocks, and like there were different colored ones. So me and my friends would grab them, like, oh my god, like I can be a Dragoon warrior or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the story's actually really good. I feel like
really
it gets
good.
a little, like too much hate for.
So
I played it like a couple years ago on my Vita, shout out, and it was like it was the first time I played it since I was a kid, where I could cognitively understand everything that was going on. Like, this game slaps.
It still holds up, right? Obviously, the
100%.
graphics aren't as good by today's standards, but
right, it's not.
great.
It doesn't look amazing, but it doesn't look bad. And kind of like you said, Ben, the whole like where it's not active time battles, but the combat is a little bit more active, right? Like having to learn the rhythm of it all for each combat or for each combo was super cool. And there was a lot of strategy there. It was a ton of fun.
So why does Ben hate Kingdom Hearts 3? Because like you can transform into like a Dragoon
It's a bad game.
in like Legend of Dragoon, and you can transform into like a roller coaster in Kingdom Hearts 3. So like
the first 15 minutes in Andy's house.
I think the Frozen World, maybe, and then I just couldn't quite.
No, Frozen World is like I love the Toy Story stuff because it was everything. Like you'd always wanted Toy Story, and like because it was Pixar, and Pixar was like, "Hey, Nomura, tell your own story. Like we totally don't care." It was like awesome, we'll do that. And then there's some parts in like the Corona world where I was like, this is weird. Why is there a cutscene where like Sora's totally not involved? That doesn't make any sense, but whatever. And then we got to Frozen, and you read that like Disney's like, hey, you have to remake this entire world because Elsa's hair's not right. And then you're like, are we watching Let It Go? And like, what the fuck?
I mean, I actually
That's
watched
when I
it
was like, this game is trash. I can't do it.
for that very reason.
Oh my god.
I got
liked it, though.
partially through the Pirates World. So I played through most of
You were so close.
the Disney
Played
stuff.
through
and
most of the game.
It just got to the point where
you
it's
were
like
so close.
I loved like the first 15 minutes when you're in Andy's house. I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing.
It's so good.
And then you go to the mall, and I'm just thinking the whole time in that mall, I'm thinking to myself, why didn't they make this Al's Toy Barn?
In my head, it was Big Al's Toy Barn.
Why am I in some generic ass mall where all the toys are like, that's some generic Gundam ripoff that they designed, or like
Fear
all these
of
things where I'm like,
Rex.
this doesn't feel like Toy Story anymore. It feels like some different universe that I'm now in,
I get you.
because like I don't know, a lot of issues there. And then it's like every world after that, it's like the Big Hero 6 world. I'm like, this is bad. The Monsters Inc. world was bad, which sucks. I loved Monsters Inc.
Big
back
Hero
in the
6
day.
World was a terrible world.
The Tangled world, I barely remember it because I beelined it. I beelined it after
I get it.
the Toy Story world. I'm like, I want to get the Pirates. I want to check out Pirates. I get there. It starts off and it's like, they couldn't even get the damn music? Are you kidding me? It's all just generic. It's not even like good original music. It's like generic stuff you find online that's like free. It's so part of that movie was the music. Like that score is so good.
Yeah.
And to
And
jump
it's
in the
in
world
it's in the second one.
yeah, like
it's in
and,
Kingdom Hearts 2.
and to see like the fact that they were like, hey, this is gonna be like more photorealistic because that's what Pirates is. It's like, okay, there's Captain Jack Sparrow. They got a guy that sounds like him, but they've got this really shitty music on top of it. And I eventually was like, this game has taken up like 80 gigabytes on my hard drive. I'm out. I can't do this anymore.
Welcome to Out of Our League, where we shit all over our guest's favorite games.
I didn't know Final Fantasy X is my favorite game. Kingdom Hearts is my
Oh,
favorite
yes.
franchise.
Nice.
My
like
fiance is
that.
actually playing through Final Fantasy X for the first time out there right now, and it's like every time I have to do
We're
a really
keeping
good
you
job at
here.
being like,
You're on
"Oh,
this.
you should do this combo or cast haste now." Like I'm really trying to tone it back because I
Yeah.
know that pisses her off, rightfully so. But like
Such a good choice.
to go out and she'd be like, "Oh, I beat the Chocobo Eater on my first time." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, you beat the Chocobo Eater on the first time." Anyone who messes with Chocobo should burn in hell.
Josh, how do you
Um,
think a chocobo tastes?
I don't think I can actually get into that conversation. Like, I think if I talk about that, I don't think I'll have a fiance anymore. So I'm gonna say they are awful, and you should not eat them.
You talked about favorite games, and Please Be Excited has got the same question he asks every guest about Greg Miller. Robin's actually got one of the same. So, Robin, do you want to take away with that question?
Sure. Josh,
Yes.
why is Nier Automata the best game ever made?
Nier Automata is breathtaking. I had a little bit of a
Robin just
heartbreaking
got an
moment with that
erection.
game. The combat is incredible. It feels so good. The music, as everyone says, it's beautiful. Like what you can do in that game, like the story, the depth, all the different endings, like the fact that in the game. So I wanted to platinum that game, and I had spent like an hour or two grinding to get to level 99, trying to get the best weapons, yada yada yada. And then eventually, like, you know what, I have to see the ending. So I go and I do, well, you know, the ending. I go and do one of the endings.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
start,
Or the
please.
third one?
The
How about the
I
fifth
tried
one?
to get
Is it the 10th one?
like the
I don't know,
true ending
Robin.
right. I think Robin, is the true ending, is that the one where like you finish it as
Real quick, spoilers. Back out now.
Spoilers, bro.
okay, yeah. I'm not like I'm not gonna spoil like
So
So
the
the-
true
okay.
ending is so at the end of the game you get a choice. So
right.
And based on that choice you get potentially 3 different endings.
Correct. And I
Yes.
picked the one where you eventually get to the like the bullet hell, right?
Yeah.
And in the credits.
Yeah.
And when that game was like, hey, all these other people are gonna like help you do this, I was like, that's really fucking cool. Like I've never seen that in a, like that is
No.
awesome. And then it gets to the point it's like, hey, do you want to give yourself up and be one of these people to help? And then I'm like, yes. And then it comes in, it's like, hey, no one's gonna know you did this. Your name's not gonna be shown anywhere. You're not gonna, we're gonna delete your save. If you want to play this game again, you're gonna have to start over. Like you're gonna lose everything for no reason. Like, do you want to help another person? And I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. Like I and there was that part of me, I was like, I want to platinum this game, but for what this game is, I want to have this experience. I said yes, and I have not turned the game on since.
Yeah, that's perfect. Dude.
It was so cool. I
feel like-
love that game, and I want to
Yeah.
play again. But there's that part of me where it's like, I don't know. Like I finished that. To me, I finished
Yeah.
that game, and that's why
Kumail's
Nier
been-
Automata is one of the greatest games of all time.
Thank you. Kumail's been playing through it recently, and
Yeah.
he's been texting me whenever he gets to different parts of the game. I've been
Mhm.
trying to help him, but I've just not been much help at all since I haven't replayed it.
Yeah.
Since I did the same as you. I did it through quote unquote true ending.
I was like, can you double jump in this game? Robin's like, if you double press X, you might be all right. I'm like, oh. No, I agree. That game is like a masterpiece in terms of just gameplay, full
Mhm.
stop. It just feels so
Yeah.
good to play. You feel, yeah, honestly, it's such a good game. And I've only gone through the first ending. I need to get to the 15th ending, but once I do, I can't wait to talk to you two about it.
For sure. There was one ending I got in there because they've got endings like A through Z. There was one ending I got that I didn't even know was an ending, but it was like this. I feel confident in saying this isn't a spoiler because it's weird as fuck, and I don't know how to. I don't know how you do it, but it was like this really weird live action music video.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like it was a live action music video of all the robots and like they're like making dolls, like porcelain dolls, and they're like killing the dolls and like killing themselves, and it was creepy as shit. Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is the weirdest thing in the world. I don't know how I triggered it. I don't know what I did, but it was really cool. Like, it's cool that it's there, like, and you could never see it.
That's
Yeah. Sorry, Phil, were you going to say something or?
Oh, I was just gonna say the save deletion. It was like one of the coolest things. I always love it when games have some, not a save deletion necessarily, but like some sort of thing that affects the physical part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as Psycho Mantis reading your memory card. But yeah, I love little things like that, and that definitely is one of those like moments for sure.
Before I move on to my next actual serious question, Josh, are you a Pokemon fan at all? Just briefly.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't play the games so much anymore. But I definitely have my Pokemon phase, and I super appreciate Pokemon for what it is.
Great. I'm gonna get you on the podcast before Ben does.
very political answer there, Josh.
But
You'll never have me on your podcast, Kamal.
actual question, moving away from moving away from games, is that I mentioned this earlier that you've got a way of pulling things out of people when you interview them. Like I've learned so much more about Robin and Ben, for example, even Josh, about how like the government to shut off his electricity for no reason.
Yeah,
there's a reason. Like,
oh yeah.
how do I become like a Josh Bittick? Because I really look up to you in terms of your podcast and your interview series. Like, I want to be more like you in that sense.
Well, I really appreciate it, Camille. That really means a lot to me. You have been a huge supporter, like all the time. So I hope you know how much I appreciate you. And I mean that like from a place of sincerity, not because the mics are on. Like I honestly mean it. I don't know how to quite answer that question. I think. Let me try not to stumble over myself. Have an eloquent question, like I know what I'm doing. I try to do my best. Not do or do not. There is no try. I learned that from Yoda. I do my best to make sure that I am making the guest feel as comfortable as possible, and also just being honest and earnest. You know what I mean? Like I care about all the people I have on my show and that I have an interaction with, and I want to make them feel like the coolest person in the world because I know how good that can feel. And I love making someone feel that joy from a place of sincerity. So if I can talk to them, make them feel comfortable, just have a nice conversation with them, that's what I do. And that comes naturally to me, which I know kind of sounds like a bullshit cop-out answer, but it's just true. Like my fiance does not like being around a lot of people, right? She gets a little overwhelmed, a little uncomfortable. She doesn't like talking to someone. I could talk to a brick wall for like 4 hours, and that brick wall would be like my best fucking friend at the end of the day. Right? And I just love to do that. So just like talking to people, I guess. Like I don't know how to answer the question the way you want me.
It's an outside observer and someone that's listened to a lot of your content, a lot of the podcasts you've had people on. I think the thing that sort of is quite impressive, it's just like you said, it's just about, it's almost like that first day of school, where you're actually going out there to meet new friends and have a good time. And that's what it feels like on your podcast. You're asking those same questions you would ask if you're trying to make new friends at a school or a workplace, that kind of thing. I think that's how you're so good at getting out of that information out of people and just making it a natural kind of progression. Like I say, it's really just about trying to meet and make a new friend really.
I agree.
That's probably
it
what
also
I
helps
sort
that everyone I talk to is really fucking cool. So like that makes my job a lot easier because you guys are awesome.
Yeah, we're blessed to have a good community. I mean, the kind of funny community, but like we've got a lot of a lot of fans that listen to a lot of things. So yeah, we're quite lucky in that sense that no one's really an arsehole. Well, I mean, we were asking the question like, at what point is Simply Sassy going to have an arsehole on our league? And thankfully, we haven't got to that point just yet.
Well, I mean, there's me. Yeah.
Oh,
dang it, Ben.
I feel bad because I was going to say
the same. Oh shit!
I didn't say that though.
I'm going to be a bit selfish with my last question.
Okay.
Because I was reading up about downtime, and I don't know if I can find it anywhere. But one of the things you talk about in downtime is like the season's biggest anime, and like as someone who watches seasonal anime, and like not many people do you still keep up with that kind of stuff? And what kind of shows do you like?
So I don't watch as much anime as I used to or want to, just because I get busy and I'm an old man now and I'm tired.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of everything, right? I love mech anime, like Gurren Lagann. I think is one of my favorite. Like, I think Full Metal Brotherhood is one of the best anime of all time.
Yeah, I think
From like just a completionist standpoint. I think Gurren Lagann is one of my favorite anime of all time because it's hype as shit. Like,
yeah.
if there'd be times when like I was having a really bad day, so I would just go watch a couple speeches from Gurren Lagann, and then I felt like I could just like fucking punch the moon. Like it's so good at making you hype.
What's that one quote? Like, believe in the me that believes in the Josh Bittick. Like,
Yeah, like don't believe in yourself, believe in the me that believes in you. Like that's so fucking cool. And maybe people like that's stupid. Like that just means believe in yourself. But to me, that's so cool. Lately, my fiance and I
more about, like,
rewatched.
people have like, for example, I've got this image of you as like you the super motivated person who's really good at interviewing and stuff like that, and like I want you to believe on that person that I think you are, you know. That's what that means.
You know, when you put it like that, I guess it does make a lot of sense. And I
Nuns are at
appreciate it.
Kingdom Hearts, you know.
Yeah.
See, I think that's why I like it, because it is so Kingdom Hearts. It's that anime bullshit. Like I love that stuff. Watching Attack on Titan right now.
Oh, man.
I watched the first season, of course, like I think everyone did, or most people did, and loved it. And then there was like the 4-year gap or whatever. I think it was like 3 years between the second season.
Yeah.
And I didn't really keep up after that. And I saw a bunch of articles where people were like, oh, Attack on Titan, like the 4th season makes Attack on Titan the most complete show of all time. So I'm like, oh shit, Attack on, like season 4 is done, it's all out. Hey babe, let's watch Attack on Titan again, start to finish. And we're like super juiced, like, yes, this is gonna be awesome. And then we get to like we're getting closer and closer. I'm like, oh shit, like I don't think season 4 is done yet. I think it's still coming
like
out.
another 10 episodes to go, I think.
Yeah, it's like halfway done. And then so like last week we caught up and we watched the episode, I think it was Assault.
Yeah.
And like
just to say, Robin's on like season 2 at the moment. So
Yeah.
just-
okay, I'm not gonna say anything. I won't say anything, but like holy crap.
yeah.
Like the fact that like
It's one of those
things that
shows
happen
where
in
you've
the
got
first
so many
episode are
questions. Yeah.
important. Like
Yeah.
you get answers, one for everything, but also there were seeds planted in the first freaking episode that are now like blossoming, right?
Yeah.
And of course, like I loved playing the Attack on Titan game on the Vita. It was awesome. I needed more Attack on Titan in my life.
When you
so
say Attack on Titan game on the Vita, do you mean Freedom Wars or an actual like licensed Attack on Titan game?
no, like an actual. I played the shit out of Freedom Wars, but like an actual licensed Attack on Titan game. It was a ton of fun. But now I'm playing through the Attack on Titan 2 on the Switch because they didn't make it for the Vita because the Switch killed the Vita, and I'm really sad. But even having so much fun playing that, like Attack on Titan's great. Other than that, I haven't seen any big.
No one else has told me about this before. You know, I watched the
No,
first
no
season,
one, no one has.
but I'm all in now. I'm all in.
I'm happy. I'm happy to hear it. Like it's really it was one of those things where when people are like, oh, Attack on Titan's back, I'm like, I don't really give a shit. Like it was just kind of whatever. And I read the manga a little bit, and there were parts where I was like, nah, I don't care. But like now going back and binging it, I was like, whoa, this show's incredible.
Mm.
Hey Ben, I just want to ask real quick: have you ever heard of a little RPG called Crosscode?
Oh yeah, Maximum Cortez told me about that. Told me all about it. Sounds like a really great game.
This is why we give Ben so much shit. He's just there wondering why. This is why.
I get a lot of shit.
I guess like Josh C can be with us today, but I think one of the questions he would ask you is like, I think you're into your film. What's your favorite franchise in terms of film? What got you into film? He loves Indiana Jones. Why do you think that's the best film of all time, or series of all time?
So I can't remember if I told Josh this or not. I don't know if I want to.
Sorry.
I have not seen all of the Indiana Jones movies.
You were waiting for Kind of Funny's in review series. That was your
obviously
excuse.
because Josh C is solely responsible for that, and he should get all of the credit and praise.
But he won't because Greg Miller's a coward.
There it is. That's the
like I said, Greg Miller is the force in us all. So in a way, it was kind of his idea because he was in me.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think the only Indiana Jones movie I've seen, like I'm sure I watched him when I was like really little with my dad, but the only one I'm cognitively know I watched was Crystal Skull. And I don't like to say that out loud a lot, but
some say it's the best one.
Robin, just don't. Just don't.
I'm not one of them though, but I'm.
See, thank you. He's saying there are people out there, and I can appreciate him for doing that. Favorite film franchise. I really like the Sherlock Holmes movies. The can't remember who did them, but the ones with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, I really like
Very
those.
good.
Like, I just find those to be super entertaining. Like, there was a time like TNT was like, for whatever reason, they just had a Sherlock marathon and they were just showing that movie all day. So I watched that movie like 2 times back to back, and it's just a fun movie. It's really, really good. I put on Scott Pilgrim today, just kind of on a whim, and ended up watching the whole thing. I love that movie. It's just so much fun.
So good.
I don't
Unlike
know.
kind of funny.
What?
I said unlike kind of funny.
Right, yeah. Unlike most of them, like I mean, I understand the fault. Like Scott's a bad character. Like the characters kind of
Oh,
suck. But it's a
they're
great
all horrible
movie.
characters, but
Oh my God,
there's
yeah.
a reason behind why they're horrible.
No,
characters.
for sure. I've always loved a visual medium because I think a lot of it because I wanted to be an actor when I was younger. But like movies just take you to another place, man. I love using my imagination, like telling stories or like in the Photoshop stuff when you're like, hey, what conversation is going on here? And I just make it up in my head because something's always playing inside my head for better or worse.
Yeah.
And the ability to take you to a whole other world and just like open up and teach you messages and like have these powerful lessons or just be stupid movies like Anchorman, but make me laugh every time I watch it. Or watching Mike Myers pee in a fountain, but eating asparagus. So then like the guard's like, oh man, does something smell like asparagus? Because he's making the fountain go in Austin Powers. Like, I love that stuff. Like movies' ability to bring people together is one of the reasons I kind of love the medium, much like podcasting and video games.
Can be therapy as well. I mean,
Oh,
it's
for
not,
sure.
not exactly a movie, but like One Piece. I think there was this one scene in One Piece where there was a message there, and it's like, don't look at what you've lost, but remember what you still have. Think about what you've still got. And from that day forward, I've always been like grateful and always thought about the bigger picture rather than looking at a small picture. And like, yeah, film and anime as another medium, it can just really help.
That's
Totally agree.
awesome.
So, favorite movie aside, what do you think is the movie that has inspired you the most as far as keeping you motivated to do what you do? A little bit different than like a favorite movie.
No, it's an
Hot
awesome
Fuzz.
question.
I'm joking.
What'd you say?
Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, not far off. I don't know. That's tough. Honestly, it might be Hot Rod. Like,
I was close.
Yes.
and I say that it's like not Hot Rod is not some profound movie
Yes,
that like
it is. Yes, it is.
teaches me a lesson. I mean,
Yes,
no,
it
it is, and it is like it's not the movie that like it's my Kevin Smith, right? Like that's the movie I saw, and I was like, without minus the explosions and the bike jumps and everything, was like, oh, me and my friends do that. Like I could do that. Like it's just so funny to me. Like when he gets nervous to ask Denise a question, and he's like, "Oh, I was just going to ask you who would win in a fight between a taco and a grilled cheese." And she's like, "Oh, if we're talking prison rules, I'd probably say taco." But he goes, "Well, that's incredibly racist, but that is the correct answer." Like that stuff, it's just so
It's so
stupid
good.
funny. It's the conversation we all have as friends, kind of like those Kevin Smith movies that I saw on the screen. Like I saw myself in Andy Samberg and all those characters. Like the riot scene when they're walking down, there's this big motivational moment that everyone starts like looting, and then Rico's there at the TV, like, oh man, that's crazy. I can't believe some people would do that, take advantage of a situation. I just think it's brilliant.
I have to go watch this. Oh my god!
Have you never seen Hot Rod?
Oh, I
my
don't watch a lot of
god.
movies. I'm not a huge into
Camille.
movies.
No, that's
You're missing
totally
out,
fine,
dude.
Camille. I'll never bash anyone for that, but I cannot recommend. Like, well, okay.
I love comedy. Like I'm all.
I
in
think
on
you would love
comedy.
Hot Rod,
Yeah.
especially
Hot Rod is
knowing you.
incredible.
I think you would love Hot Rod.
Awesome.
I try and always assume that Kumail has not seen something live action, so I try and put more context into it whenever I'm trying
I will
to
keep that in my back pocket moving forward.
I'll be lost without Phil. I'll be honest. So yeah, I think that's it from me really, and I think we've had a good runtime. Unless anyone wants to chime in with any last minute questions.
I got one last one. That's all
Hit
right.
me.
So it's about something you touched on, Josh, around burnout.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously getting help and obviously
Video game
realizing
franchise the whole time.
I was gonna make the joke, Kamel, but I thought it would be
You're
insensitive.
not wrong. You're not
but
wrong,
you just went
Kumail. You're
there,
not
so-
wrong. But I think burnout's something that probably even a lot of us probably actually suffer from. I know personally myself working crazy hours, and last sort of year had to take a little bit of a break from content creation just because burnout is real. So I was just wanting to know how you sort of particularly, for people out there watching that may be going for a similar thing, how did you personally sort of, if you don't mind talking about it, how did you sort of deal with it?
No, of course. For me, it's gonna sound weird. Like realizing that what I was having was burnout is important, right? And it wasn't until I talked to my therapist where he's like, "Hey, I think you're kind of just burnt out." Where like I felt like I didn't want to make content and I didn't know why, and it felt like because of that, I felt like I was wrong. Like something was wrong inside me, right? Like, oh,
Mm.
everything's going really well. Like the show is like, I enjoy doing it. So why is it that when I walk past my office, I'm paralyzed to go inside? Like before today, I don't remember the last time. Well, that's not true. That's an over exaggeration. The last time I touched my mic was before Christmas, but I hadn't touched it. Like I would just look in the office and I would just be terrified and I couldn't explain it. Like I don't know what was going wrong. And it wasn't until like someone from the outside said, "Hey, that is burnout," is when it all clicked. And then accepting it and realizing that that's okay. Like you're gonna go through burnout. Like everyone is, even if you feel like you don't do a whole lot, right? Like I I look at people like you guys and you know like you're kind of funnies and be like, oh man, well they're doing X, Y, D, Z, they're doing so much more. And trying to not compare myself to other people, right? Everyone is different. Everyone has their own barometers for success, and everyone has their own workload that they can take on. So instead of saying like, hey, so and so is doing all of these things, but they're not burnt out, why am I? And just being like, hey, maybe I have to take a break. That's okay. You're going to get burned out. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you can't do this. It may feel like that. It may feel shitty. And I think as human beings, our first instinct is to kind of tear ourselves down, because if we do it first, no one else can. Or that it's just easier to be like, oh, well, I just must suck and be awful, than be like, no, I'm just struggling. That's important. And it's okay to struggle and it's okay to take breaks. It's like I took a month off and that may mean the show suffers because of it and that like I don't have as much traction going back in, but I'll build it back up. Or if it's supposed to happen and I keep working at it and someone thinks I'm good, someone will listen. And if not, then I do it for me or I take another break. It's just kind of figuring out what works best for you as the individual.
Great answer.
Thank you.
I have another question similar to what I asked about your movie, but
Mhm.
you've mentioned your dad and you mentioned your fiance.
Mhm.
Is there a person you can harken back to that kind of like throughout doing and figuring out what you wanted to do or what you want to do that really inspired you to keep going and pushing forward? Like I know for me, mine is my grandfather.
Mhm.
I had a very turbulent childhood.
Mhm.
And my grandpa was one of the saving graces of my childhood, and he is the person that kind of showed me that I can push forward, that I can do the things that I want to do, and that I'm capable of doing those things. Is there someone in your life like that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, you said I've mentioned my dad and my fiance. I think it would definitely be those two people, right? Like, my dad was always he's always been helpful. He's always been there to offer advice. And you know, we've had our ups and downs. We've had our, you know, our relationship has changed as we've gotten older. And I think as we've both become more healthy individuals, that also helps. And it helps to kind of push each other for better or worse. We are a lot alike at times. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I think I developed a fear of failure from him, and I think that's fair to say because he's recognized that. And if not, oops, I said it. Uh, but because of that, we've both been able to grow, and coincidentally enough, grow with that problem at the same time. So to know that I can go like I'm 26, he's 56, he's 55, going to be 56, one of those two numbers. He's 30 years older than I am. He is starting his own content creation right now. So like it's been something he's struggled with and been fearful of, but by seeing me just do it, it gave him motivation to do it. So it was really cool to have that dynamic, and he's just going to give it a shot, you know? So that's been a really big inspiration to see as I get older, as that role reversal kind of happens. My fiance has also been fantastic because she is the most supportive person for me in the world. Like she just wants me to be happy. And if that means I sit on the couch and I'm a mopey little bitch for a couple hours, she'll let me do that. And then at like hour two, she'll be like, hey, you got to stop being a mopey little bitch. You can fix this problem. Then I'll do that. Or if it's like, hey, go record a podcast for 4 hours. Like that's cool. I am
Oops,
so proud
sorry.
of you. No, I wasn't specifically talking about this. But,
I know.
Well, finally, give me a chance to play Final Fantasy X. You know,
no, exactly. She's super happy. Like once we moved into the new place, our old place, we only had like 600 square feet, so we were living on top of each other. So if I was recording, she had to sit in the bedroom. Now on the other side of this wall, you got the TV. She's playing games. I don't even think she remembers me. But like it's that weird moment when you love someone so much and they say, hey, I'm really proud of you. Or when she says, hey, I think you're really cool. It's those small moments that just like that's it. That's awesome. Like that's what I need at times, you know. So those would be the two people who are, I think, the most influential to me or motivating.
That's beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome.
I think that's probably a great place to end it, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, I
If anybody
appreciate
else has
Yeah,
anything else
before
they
we
want to
start
talk
bringing in
about,
other people's grandpas into the fucking conversation.
Camille, that was such a sweet, nice note.
See, Camille, that's all I do,
We
homie.
were so close, Camille.
I
Thanks,
can't
man.
stop being who I am. I'm sorry.
My grandpa passed away in 2007.
Way to go, Camille. Man, you look like an extra asshole now.
That is true, but I'm not actually upset. I just want to throw that out there.
No, you have every right to be upset, Phil. Turn this around. He beat the shit out of you. You beat the shit out of him. That's how this
Please
works,
be
right?
excited context emotes up in the chat. Like,
So that's what I
no
learned from
supposed-
Simply Sassy gang. Just beat the shit out of each other.
No,
Yep.
Josh, it's,
That's what it's known for.
It's a wonder we
I'm
still
so
make
happy
content.
that we managed to get you on, especially after you've just come off your break. And like, no, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was always
No,
good
of course.
catching
I
up
can't
too.
thank you guys enough.
Yeah.
Like it's one, it was really cool to see all of you guys come together to become Simply Sassy. It was like from the outside, like this is dope. Like all of these people individually are like really fucking cool. I cannot wait to see what they make together. And I have not been disappointed. So like hats off to each and every
Thank
one
you.
of you, even the people who aren't here. Like you guys are doing some amazing stuff. And I could not be more proud. And when Josh sent me the message, was like, hey, we'd love to have you on the show. Absolutely honored. Like I cannot thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. It's been an absolute joy.
The feeling's mutual.
It's our honor, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
100%.
Of course.
It's been a lot of fun. Once again, I know we covered it in the Photoshop challenge, but new show, we got to do it anyway. Where can people find you, Josh?
People can find me on Twitter at Josh Bittick. It's my first and last name. Pretty easy. My big goofy mug right there. If like, I know Camille mentioned some of the stuff I've done in the past. If you want to go to joshbittick.com, you can see pretty much all of the stuff I've done before. Sans the podcast, any place you get your podcast. If you search the Up and Comer podcast, you should see my show. It's going to have my name by it. You can listen to the fantastic people on the show, and that list is going to keep growing to all of the people who are currently listening to / viewing right now will then be on there. Again, Borderline Entertainment, youtube.com/Borderline Entertainment, BorderlineEntertainment.com. You can see me there. I can't remember exactly the social handles, but I'm sure if you search Borderline Entertainment, you'll see a green BLE, and that's the stuff.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for joining us, Josh. This has been a real pleasure, and thank you all for watching. If you want to find me, I'll be at GF2 on Twitter, at Philip J. Woodward, at Camille H, at Please Be Excited, at The Robin GL on Twitter, right?
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I always get that one
Nailed it.
confused because I'm so used to just Robin GL, but it's The Robin GL on Twitter, and of course
The one
at
and
Simply
only.
Sassy
But
Viz.
don't go to Robin GL, please.
Go to Robin GL.
Don't.
Please do. Everybody's
Whatever
flooding
you
with
do.
follows. Just ruin his day in the best way possible.
Like Nick Scarpino, not Nick _Scarpino.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, Portillo's.
Whatever you do, also don't watch that bird stream that may or may not be posted on the Simply Sassy YouTube.
I'm
Sure.
so like I'm so curious about what that's gonna be because I just keep hearing
No,
I see people on Twitter just like bad mouthing it and then you guys going back and forth. I gotta watch this. I don't give a shit.
no, you
It's
don't.
birds,
If
whatever.
I think any
But this sounds,
consolation
It's on the tracks. There's no
My-
derailing it.
this sounds
My
so
friend
intriguing.
who likes birds was like, I need to see this. Why isn't it uploaded yet? So get that uploaded soon.
I have to
Pull it up.
I have to edit some negative space out. We'll just say.
Awesome.
Oh god.
It's a near 3-hour stream about birds.
There is no negative space, Dylan.
We
I
need
Keep an
agree,
eye out.
Robin.
Keep an eye out for that. Also, keep an eye out for. I'm not sure when it's going to be done. We're making sure we're taking our time with it. But the game show we recorded with Johnny Ace will be coming out eventually. So just keep an eye out for that. That was a lot of fun. It's going to be very
And yeah,
condemning
we've
for
got a
me
couple of things in the pipeline
I
that you should be
possibly
excited
a
God
new
damn it,
show.
Camille, I wasn't there yet.
about. Sorry.
Stop taking over the show.
My bad.
God,
If you
we
don't
have a lot of
watch,
things coming in the pipeline, as Camille was saying. We do have some fun announcements that will be kind of rolling out over the next few weeks, as if things work. There's I'm not gonna say much, but we may or may not have a new show that we are
I'm very
working
excited.
on. We're working on, thanks to the one and only Ben. I'm probably gonna spend the rest of my day actually working on some stuff for that. So that is gonna be a lot of fun, and a lot of other cool stuff that might be happening in the future. So
We also might need guests for that possible fun new show that might be happening at some point. So
Josh.
And real quick, on the off chance that you haven't seen the Photoshop challenge yet, next week's theme is a tall lady from Resident Evil 8, also known as Lady Dimitrescu or Dami Mommy.
Ooh, crush those names. You crushed them.
Or Simp Seductor. I'll
Yeah,
put that one
right.
out there.
That's good too. I like that. So yeah, how tall is she? You can do stuff like that, or you can put her anywhere. There's really no boundaries. Well, YouTube safe, please.
Make sure we can show it.
We gotta be able to show. We gotta be able to
Hey,
show.
everybody, have a wonderful day.
Other than that, there's no boundaries. All right. See you guys later.
I love this show.